The Battlehosts. Be a better gamer, build a better community.
Welcome to Battlehosts, a podcast, a website dedicated to helping you become a better 40K gamer and to build a better community of players. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight is Matt.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hello.
If you like what you hear, subscribe to us on iTunes to catch all the latest episodes. You can also follow us on Facebook under The Battlehosts. If you'd like to support The Battlehosts for as little as $1 a month, please visit patreon.com/TheBattlehosts. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about Tau. So, like most of our army reviews, it's a long one, so we're going to break this into two parts. In this part, we're going to talk a little about the story and the background of Tau, each of the Tau Septs, and some of our favorite units in this new edition, this new codex. It's not new; it's been out for a while, but I actually think Tau have been out for a little while, but I feel like they're just starting to, with some of the points drops in chapter approved, we're starting to see some of the different rules. I actually kind of think they're kind of ascending now. I don't know that when they first came out they made a big splash, but actually I kind of see them being a little more powerful than they were when they first came out.
They're getting a second wind.
Second wind, I think.
When was it? Like last spring that they came out?
Yeah,
about a year ago.
Yeah, because they were previewed at that GW event we went to at LVO last year.
At LVO, yeah.
Because they said Tau Necrons, Dark Eldar.
Dark Eldar, yep.
So it was like late winter, early spring.
Yeah,
last year.
and it's funny because Tau and Necrons are fairly, somewhat bland, or they didn't have a huge impact, but then Dark Eldar kicked off the cycle of having, Dark Eldar and Knights and really
Knights,
cool level of codexes and orcs and things that were like really cool, not just powerful, but flavorful codexes.
Yeah, because those two, the Necrons came out and it was wah, wah,
I know.
And Tau came out and was like, diet. And then Dark Eldar came out like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then Knights, like, double whoa.
Look at all these things we have.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there really wasn't a reason to talk Tau. Tau were interesting, but they weren't something that they were just Tau. If you're a Tau player, you played Tau. But now we're kind of seeing them a little more, and they're more interesting. I think they're a little more of a, you can see them in placing really well at events, and you can actually see them being a little more powerful than when they first came out. So,
well, and it's crazy because in 7th they were everywhere.
Yeah,
Tau was all over the place in 7th.
Yep.
And then when 8th hit, it was just like,
Tau or were Riptides all over the
place. A and B,
So this is the first part. We're going to talk about the Tau Codex. And we like to wait until a codex has been out for a little while before we talk about it. And I think Tau are kind of in a right spot where they've been out long enough that people kind of understand a little bit about them. But I think with some of the points adjustments, they become pretty interesting. So, Part 2, we're going to have an interview with Val Heffelfinger and Sean Morgan, aka Abuse Puppy, and they're going to talk about Tau competitively. So they both have very different experiences talking about how they have played Tau in different events. One has had more success than the other. You will find out in Part 2 which one of those is on the other side of that. So we'll finish up our discussion of Tau as well, and we'll just talk about getting started with Tau. So before we jump into Tau, let's hear a word from our sponsor, DGT.
We all love Warhammer 40K, but sometimes games just take too long. Using a game timer is the best way to make sure games finish and for both players to get an equal amount of time. Check out the Easy Game Timer from DGT, manufacturers and designers of the timers officially sanctioned by the International Chess Federation. It's simple to set up and customize, and your settings are saved when it's turned off. It's easy to use with a large moving lever for changing turns and a clear digital readout. It's the most affordable and high-quality game timer on the market and is the choice of most 40K events. Whether you want to practice before a big event or you just want to be a better player, the Easy Game Timer from DGT is the perfect game timer for your 40K events. The DGT Easy Game Timer is available from many online retailers. Wholesale pricing is also available for tournament organizers. Check these fine clocks out at dgtnorthamerica.com. Speed up your game and improve your play with the Easy Game Timer from DGT.
Let's talk a little bit about what Tau is. Now, a brief history of Tau. What I love about, first of all, the Imperium is that the Imperium is insane, right? And it's very much different than your classic sci-fi in Star Trek, there's a thing called, I'm going to get a little nerdy here with the Trekkie stuff, but
You're on a Warhammer 40K podcast.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know if our
ship has sailed.
nerdyism can get any higher.
That's probably true. We can't get much more. There's a thing called the Prime Directive, which means you're not allowed to interfere with other species. The Imperium has something the reverse of that, where they will eliminate any kind of xenospecies that pose any kind of threat, regardless of what level of civilization they're at. So the Tau were discovered by a explorator vessel 6,000 years into the timeline, where they were just sort of like playing around with like rocks, and they had just discovered fire, and they were marked for basically extermination, genocide. They're like, we need to do something about this race before they get too crazy. We'll go ahead and mark them as a basically scheduled for routine cleansing, as the Imperium would.
Yeah. Next time we have an army through here, just swing on by,
just
wham bam, knock it out in a few days, and
Take
we'll
care
move
of
on.
these guys before we move on. But as most things happen, a warp storm cut off contact, because it always happens. Warp storm is kind of like
Chaos is the worst.
It is. Now, Tau, of course, don't. One of their signatures is they don't have a warp signature. They don't have a lot of psychic stuff, so the warp storm doesn't affect them like it does other races. So contact, was cut off, and the Imperium never got around to checking off that routine cleansing box, and so the Tau were allowed to sort of thrive. Think about like when they say Tau is a young race in the 40K universe, it's 6,000 years from fire to where they're at now. They were a warlike species, but the Ethereals arrived, and the Ethereals brought this idea called the greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good, which is communal living, cooperation, and self-sacrifice.
Communism. Communism.
For the good of the whole. That is Tau. Tau are very much, why they call them communists, is because they are basically, it's a sacrifice for the greater good. Now, Tau have like a caste system, a fairly rigid caste system. So the funny thing about it is, of course, you think, wow, Tau are this way, but the Imperium is a fascist government, so I'm not sure which one. Honestly, which one tends to be?
There is no good guy.
There are no good guys, but Tau are
as close as we can get to kind of a good guy.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they commit genocide, but it's sterilizing.
Yeah,
that's the clean version.
It's a cleaner version.
Yeah.
Well, and they add to the Tau by, quote unquote diplomacy.
Yep.
And the diplomacy is join us or we're going to exterminate your entire race type diplomacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gunboat diplomacy.
Yeah. I kind of think, it's hard to say. I kind of think living in a Tau society, I don't know how much better it would be than an Imperium society, but it'd be a lot more better technology, I would imagine. Might be a little bit cleaner. I'm not sure. So they have a caste system. So the fire caste are the warriors. So any of the things you see on the tabletop are the fire caste. They are ground soldiers, vehicle drivers, anything that you see modeled on the tabletop. Then they have the air caste, which are pilots, which I suppose the starships and the merchant fleets and I guess the actual flyers that Tau have would be air caste as well. There's the earth caste, which are the builders, the farmers, the laborers, the engineers, basically the people that make the society go, and they tend to be the lower of the caste system. Then there's the water caste, which are the merchants, bureaucrats, the administrators, the diplomats, and the ambassadors and the scientists. And the water caste is typically, if you are a species and you first meet Tau, they usually lead with the water caste, which are their diplomats. Mm-hmm. And they say, would you like to learn about the greater good? And they sort of come show up at your door and, hopefully they try to swing you to their side. Then you have the Ethereals, which are sort of the leader caste. And they don't talk about it exactly how the Ethereals do what they do. They just simply have convinced the rest of the Tau race to follow this thing called the greater good. They think it might be a psychic thing, or it might be some kind of a pheromone thing, or they have some level of mind control, but they've kind of left that out there as sort of vague, is exactly what Tau, how the Ethereals control Tau. And my personal favorite of the Tau Septs was the Farsight Enclaves, because Commander Farsight left and went off on his own crusade and basically kicked out the Ethereals. So he's kind of the wild child who has left the Tau, greater good, and doing his own thing. So even among the Tau, they have kind of the different schisms between the different septs and the different groups within Tau. But Tau were released at the end of 3rd edition in kind of early 2000 along with Necrons. And they don't have a fantasy counterpart. Nope. They were basically... Necrons are Tomb Kings in space. Eldar are elves in space. Orcs, well, you get the gist. But Tau are built basically from the ground up to be a completely different kind of army. And they were created to appeal to sort of sci-fi and frankly anime fans as a way to get other different people into 40K. If you think about what 40K the universe is, it's sci-fi, but it's really more fantasy with the sci-fi kind of elements to it. Tau are very sci-fi. They don't have exposed cables. They don't have exposed wiring. They don't have really awkward, weird stuff. Everything looks like a piece of technology that you kind of think might work. Like
it's really clean. They're really clean.
They're clean.
Yeah.
They don't have the weird curved shapes of Eldar. They look like a high-tech, you would assume a high-tech sci-fi race would look like. And they're supposed to be kind of likable, but sort of naive as a race. And so they are, in 8th edition, they have made Tau a little darker. A little darker over sort of undertones of like, they have more of that, there's a sinister sort of Orwellian thing to them where they're sort of controlling things more than you kind of when they first came out. But I kind of think that's just the times. I mean, think about like 2000, things were, late 90s, 2000, things were much more optimistic. We had moved away from like the heavy metal sort of grimdark.
Yep.
And Tau were designed to be kind of fit within the Star Wars, Star Trek sort of universe of things that people might like. And now that we're kind of into more like dystopian fiction is becoming more popular, you see Tau becoming more a little darker, even when they first came out.
Yeah, and when they came out, you're supposed to be like the new kids on the block, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty much they are the youngest race.
Yes.
In the entire 41st millennia, and the Imperium kind of looks at them like, oh, those kids. Look at them relying on their technology like we used to.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll learn.
Yeah. We could tell them that it's going to end badly, but a burned hand learns best. And so we're just going to watch this one as far as their technology turns on them like it did with us.
And they kind of tower the eastern fringe of the galaxy, and they have I think 100 worlds. I mean, their empire is actually quite small. And
they're not an existential threat to the Imperium.
Yeah, and the idea is the Imperium kind of just goes, well, I mean, occasionally they'll go in and do things, but the Tau have never expanded past the Damocles Gulf except for last edition. Now they're doing it. But for the most part, they were sort of just content to let them sit over there and battle orcs and the occasional Tyranid maybe that showed up. So.
Yeah.
But talk about Tau. When we went to Las Vegas Open, not this year, but last year, and they were announcing the new armies, and all they did was they showed pictures.
I know where you're going with this, and I'm just remembering it, and I'm laughing.
They basically say, okay, here are the new armies, and they didn't announce it. They showed like a picture, and they showed a picture of the Dark Eldar. And people were like, oh wow, yay, Dark Eldar, and Necrons, yay, and they showed Tau. I was like, so like half the room was, and then there's others like, what do you mean? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
And Tau get a lot of, they are a mixed reaction army. I mean, pretty much there's a lot of dedicated 40K fans that just don't like the Tau. What do you guys think? Why?
I think you already hit on part of it. Just when they were released, and they were an obvious attempt to expand the market.
Yep.
And thematically, they just felt off for some people. You know, this idea that like, hey, we have this grimdark universe, and then you release a race that's supposed to be likable, and and they were really playing up the Tau are the good guys.
Yeah.
And so I think that caused a little bit of a kind of pushback.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm happy to see Tau. They're playing around with the Orwellian themes. The stuff that's all been there, but has kind of been more implied, playing it up. Because that helps it fit into the 40K universe.
Yeah, they do. You're right. They were kind of put in and they were weird. I mean, they didn't fit a lot of the established aesthetics. They had their own unique kind of spin. They were very different from the rest of the universe, and they felt like, wow, they just seem out of place. For those that are steeped in the grimdark and love the gothic feel of 40K, Tau feel weird.
Yep.
Well, I mean, from a playing perspective, I mean, I had
Yeah.
to cut my teeth on Tau, like, because when I started playing, like, one of the main people that I played against was Tau, and I had my Dark Eldar, and it was just not a game most of the time, because I jink my Venom, and they're like, no, you don't. Not with 20 marker lights on you. You don't, because I just ignore that. I'm like, okay, well, I am effectively a paper plane that is sitting still.
Yep.
Type thing. There are, for argument's sake, there are 5 phases in 40K. There's movement, there's psychic, there's shooting, There's charging if you want to kind of include that as a sub-phase of the assault phase. And then there's the assault phase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tau participate in 2, maybe 2.5. Maybe, I would say 2.5.
Yeah.
They only participate in the charge phase when they are shooting a metric poo ton of Overwatch from everything that's on the board. Because when they're deployed, they're in a big giant ball.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, I can't charge that because I don't get Overwatched by one thing. I get Overwatched by that entire ball right there. I get Overwatched by the entire army. So sometimes some individuals, I do not blame them for feeling this way, that the game against Tau is, can I get to you before you shoot me off the board?
Yeah.
And it just is kind of a consistent theme.
Yeah.
And the entire army is like that. The entire Tau army is like that.
They shoot a lot. Yes. And it does feel sometimes, I've heard people talk about that, it feels very non-interactive, I suppose. You're trying to get to them, you're trying to do stuff, but for the most part, it's a war of just a shooting gallery.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's part of it is that they sort of fit a little weird within the rest of the universe. Part of it is that their play style is different, because you think about too, even like every army has a close combat melee element to it. Everyone except Tau. So even their play style is different than others.
And they've tried with Commander Farsight, and there's a relic that's like a giant gauntlet that you get like one attack at strength 10.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried, and then I think there's like a relic that maybe lets them do something in psychic phase. I mean, they do these like kind of half attempts at getting them involved.
I mean, Crude exists, right?
Crude exists.
I guess they do.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, to go back to the original, like in 6th and 7th edition, Tau, because they basically expand through diplomacy, they could ally with in 6th edition, they could ally with, I think, everybody, like even like demons. It was insane. 7th kind of reined that in, but they were the ally army for just about everything. So you always saw a Tau contingent of something because they offered a ton of firepower.
Well, they were really, really, really good at that one thing.
Exactly.
I want to have this one really, really good thing, Riptide Wing, but I want another facet of playing Warhammer 40K. So I'm going to just bring the rest of my army with these 3 Riptides.
Yep. Exactly. And so I think Riptide Wing being spammed had a big part to do with it, like most recently.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there's the case that there's a lot of people, I wouldn't guess at percentages, but the 40K fan base, there's a good amount of them that don't like anime.
Yeah.
And they kind of don't like anything that seems to be hearkening to it.
Yeah.
So I think that might also be part of it.
Yeah, that's probably true. I like Tau because, I mean, I liked Robotech back in the day, you know, and Battletech. So they have that feel to them. So I understand. I guess I get it. If you're more of a fantasy, especially if you're an old time player and you really like the original aesthetic of 40K, Tau have never really fit. And so but you know, I think without Tau, I mean, Tau brought in a lot of new players. A lot of new players.
It was very successful.
And they're still a popular army.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's happened to you guys, but when people come up to me and ask me like, "Hey, I want to get started in this hobby. What army should I try?" And I say, I can't really tell you that of like what's good, because that will skew your opinion. I'd encourage you to walk into the main area of our local game store, look at all the armies, and find the army that appeals to you aesthetically. Because you are the one that's going to have to paint all those models.
Exactly. You want to look. You want to like how they look.
And some of them come back like, I really like the look of Tau. Are they any good? Like, you go with Tau, regardless of you know how they are on the tabletop. You go with Tau because it is going to be the army that you enjoy playing. And full disclaimer, I did play a Riptide Wing. And I did have 3 Riptides at one time.
You know, we all did things in 7th edition that.
And putting together those Riptides was fun. Those models were easy to paint because they're blocks. And they're easy to highlight, and they're easy to wash because they have nice divots in the battle suits. It was a lot of fun to paint those Riptides, and I hate painting. So
they're a very striking army, actually. I think. And our friend Colin, he has airbrushed. He has a client where he airbrushes Tau for, and he hates Tau. Because he's a chaos player and he hates Tau. So there's that. But aside from that, he has admitted that painting Tau looks striking. They're a really striking army, to me, even more so than they're like Eldar in a lot of ways, but they can take an airbrush, but they take edge highlights so well. They can really, really look good.
Because Eldar stuff is like all rounded, and it's really hard to highlight that stuff. Yeah. It's harder to highlight that stuff, but if Tau is easier to, do line highlights and even airbrush highlights.
And with the blocking stuff, you can do themes that you couldn't do with Eldar, like Russian vehicles.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to paint up my Tau battlesuits, with like old block, camo and stuff like that. Looks really, really good.
Yep. So that's Tau. I think that we have to recognize before we jump into them is that there's some divided opinion on Tau, but I don't know. I think they're cool. And that's probably why before in previous editions they were either overpowered or you saw elements of them taken everywhere. I actually think right now, though, where the edition is now, with all the codexes, they're a strong army. They are not overpowered by any means. They have a very good place. They are. I don't think they're. If you want to rank them top tier, I don't know how. Sometimes I think that's just silly.
I wouldn't put them like up meta right now. I wouldn't put them with the top 2.
Yeah,
but they're in the next bracket. I mean, they're top 8 LVO quality. They got there.
So they're kind of where they need to be right now.
Yeah.
They have been out for a year and they have flown under the radar and everything else has been reined in. And when everything else is reined in besides you, you float to the top. So if things get worse around you, that means you get better.
Yep.
And that's exactly where Tau have been.
Yeah. And I like the fact, though, that Tau are not so obviously cheesy that people can complain about things that are overpowered. They are just a tough army that, if you enjoy playing them, you should play them.
But and we may be jumping ahead a little bit here, but there are ways to defeat them.
Absolutely.
It's not just like, here's a giant battle suit with a 3-up invul and a 2-up armor. Try to kill that. Like, there are ways that you can eliminate that army. Without having to, kill the Riptide.
Yep. Agreed. So let's talk about Tau. It's basically just an overview of how they play. So they obviously specialize in shooting. Shooting phase is their jam. So Overwatch is their assault phase, and I think you're right. It's basically their assault is Overwatch. To play Tau requires target priority.
Yes.
You have to. I think Tau probably a fully functioning Tau chunk, a castle, can probably eliminate one of whatever is on the board. Maybe 3-up invul Castellan, not so much. But they can pretty much take care of a single threat.
They can't kill a 3-up Castellan? Come on.
I know.
They come close.
They can come really close.
They can just swarm it with saves.
Yep. So they can take down, like, you think about Tau, they're really good at taking down a single threat with full marker light support. So, but you have to identify what is the threat to them if you're a Tau player. They don't have psychic powers. They don't have relics. They use technology with support systems and signature systems to kind of to fuel their army.
Yep.
Their basic general rules. They have a Blitz skill of 4+, generally, although 2+ for commanders and characters.
Yes.
Which is funny because Tau are a shooting army, but I think that is they need that because it's kind of the balancing piece of Tau.
Yeah, if they didn't have that, it would be really strong.
If that entire army was 3-up,
God,
yeah. I like the fluff explanation that GW has given us for that one.
Yeah.
Like, their training is subpar, but their technology is great.
Yeah.
And the eyes, something about the eyes.
Depth perception.
They have bad eyesight.
They have bad depth perception or something.
It's the eyesight's good. The depth perception, I don't know how they work around it, but yeah, they're not. they just don't have the same eyesight that humans do. And their technology, of course, is amazing. They don't have plasma that blows up on them, which is kind of a plus, which is nice.
Yeah.
One less strength, though.
One less strength, yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, that's actually always been the fluff, is that the Imperium could have plasma like Tau, but they just crank it up to 11 all the time.
Yeah, that's how they roll. That's how the Imperium rolls. Their commanders and stuff have a 2-up, which is nice because it does tend to balance a little bit. They have what's called a marker light, and a marker light is basically, I've never seen a Tau list without marker lights. I'm trying to think of a Tau list I've seen without marker lights. I just feel like marker lights are kind of the fuel. They need marker lights.
It's like a Space Marine army without any aura buffs.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
If you see a Tau army without marker lights, it must be all Vespids and Kroot.
Oh, God.
Because
either way, you need to pull them to the side and get them some help.
Because marker lights are really, they are what get around kind of that. And that's kind of the balancing factor of Tau. So the way marker lights work is they're a heavy weapon, and they're, I guess, just a flashlight or they're like the little red dots.
Yeah, they're little red dots.
Little sniper dots.
Yep.
And a marker light, if you get a hit with a marker light, the very first marker light on a enemy unit, so usually you'll see Tau have the little markers or counters. The first one is you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for all Tau Empire models attacking that unit. So
yes.
That's good, because again, they have a 4 ballistic skill for most of their stuff.
And a note for those of you that aren't familiar with the Army in 8th, it does not consume marker lights. That's you don't spend them anymore like you used to.
Yeah,
it's just
that's true. That's a good
you
point.
get these benefits no matter how many units are going to shoot and use a benefit. It's just how many marker lights do you have on that unit.
Yep. So the way it typically works is the beginning of the shooting phase, Tau will fire off single marker lights until they get a single hit with like a model, and then they'll reroll ones for the rest of their marker lights.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes they identify the key threat and they try to get at least 5 marker lights on it, because once you get to 5 marker lights, that's when you actually have a fully sort of like lit up target.
Yeah.
So 2 marker lights is destroyer and seeker missiles can fire at that, which you don't see very often. So 2's not as super interesting.
If we saw more storm surges, you'd see them, or more.
Yep.
I think sky rays, have them.
Yep. 3 marker lights, the unit doesn't get cover, which
is good.
Was a much bigger deal last edition, but it's still pretty good this edition. In some respects.
Last edition it was like 2.
Yeah.
Like if you could spend 2 marker lights to ignore cover for like the entire army. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Cover, and that's when the no jink came up.
Yep.
Thing. Like, ugh.
Yep. 4 marker lights do not suffer, basically the models firing don't suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons or advancing and firing assault weapons.
Which is a big one.
Yeah, because you could sort of move into position, because, we talked about Tau shooting. The movement phase for Tau is moving into position to get into range, to get the line of sight on things. I mean, they need to be able to do those kinds of things, and also to get to claim the board, because they are a castle and they need to move around in their little castle there. And then 5 is add 1 to hit rolls, and so there you go. There's your 3 up hitting. So
So the important ones are 1 and 5, pretty much. 4 is usually the not suffering a -1 to hit when moving. It's usually negated on the Riptides, because most of them take a signature system that ignores that anyways.
Yep.
It's one of the top 3 that they take.
Yeah.
And so they don't care about a 4. They want 1 or they want 5.
Yeah. 1 or 5, and then it ignores cover in some cases as well. But 1 and 5. So it's typically what I'll see Tau players do is they'll take their priority target, they'll light it up to 5, stop, and then if they have some marker lights left over, they'll try to put 1 on like their secondary target, just to get like a 1 to reroll hit rolls of 1 or something like that. But marker lights are a huge sort of balancing thing for the army, and I think actually marker lights, I've never seen a Tau list without them. The other thing Tau have basically is drones, and drones didn't used to be that big of a deal, but drones are a big deal now with the Tau army.
Yes.
You have gun shield and marker drones, and then you have specialist drones, but what drones have is what's called a savior protocol. So if a unit is wounded on a 2+, a friendly Sept unit basically can pass it. If a unit is wounded on a 2+, it can pass it off to a drone, and the drone suffers a mortal wound.
Yeah, and battlesuits.
Battlesuits.
If a battlesuit is wounded.
Yeah, battlesuits. So drones are actually really, really, really important with Tau, because if you think about it, their indirect fire are their smart missile systems. But to really bring their big guns to bear, they have to be in sort of line of sight of getting shot. So Tau units are often getting shot at as well as they're shooting. They need the drones to survive, because otherwise they themselves will get blown off the board by really, really powerful firepower.
Yeah, and what's really, really important to point out is the wording of the drone, the savior protocols is what it's called.
Yep.
Is so let's use the common beating post lately.
Volcano Lance.
Yes, thank you. The Castellan. Okay, as I'm looking at Mark's Castellan over in his case, very well painted, but it doesn't make it any less of a menace.
Yeah, it's a menace. It's a menace.
Volcano Lance.
Yep.
I shoot at your Riptide with my Volcano Lance. It's going to wound it on 2s, and it's 3d3 damage, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
The Riptide says, nope. Riptide picks up a drone, puts it in front of it, and it absorbs that volcano that volcano Lance shot.
Basically,
yeah. And that 3d3 damage gets reduced down to 1.
1 mortal wound.
Yep.
1 mortal wound that a shield drone can save on a 5-up.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
It also triggers the hell out of me when it happens.
It does.
Yeah.
Shield drones, so the shield drones have a 5-up save ignoring wounds. And so even though they take a mortal wound, they have a 5-up to ignore that as well. So shield drones are hard to get rid of sometimes.
Yep, they are.
Yes.
But that 3d3 gets reduced down to 1.
And it's done.
1 damage. So savior protocols are extremely good.
Extremely good.
Yes.
And I don't, oftentimes I see at least 6 or 7 drones, shield drones, surrounding the big units. So if I have 2 riptides, I'll probably have 2 units of 6 or 7. If I have 3 riptides, if I have broadsides, but you need a chunk of them to survive because oftentimes if you're getting shot at, you can kind of pass. Tower are interesting because if they set their castle up correctly and all you're shooting at are battle suits, the only thing within range, or maybe fire warriors, but it's almost hard to get a kill on them because they can keep passing wounds off to drones.
Yep.
And you may spend a turn shooting at their riptide and kill 5 drones. And that's it. That's all you've done. But you have to kind of keep going because eventually you'll clear the drones.
Yeah. Just like command points for every army, drones are a resource for Tau.
Yep.
And that resource is non-replenishable.
Yep.
And so when you're playing against them or you're playing as them, you need to be aware that you're on a clock.
Yeah.
Your drones will slowly die, and it's a case of can you cripple or do what you need to do really to achieve your win condition before those drones run out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the way I have seen Tau play most of the time is you kind of have a castle, and you have about 2 turns, maybe 3, of as much firepower as you could possibly pour. But at that point, then you have to move out of your castle to claim objectives or start claiming board space. But they are a tough little sort of castle to crack because they can do things like prepared positions and have 2-up armor saves. They can use drones to sort of deflect shots. They almost oftentimes don't lose a lot of firepower turn 1 because usually the drones are absorbing all the incoming fire. And also they have what's called a Kayun, which is reroll failed hit rolls within 6 inches of a commander. And they can do that once per battle unless they have Shadow Sun. They can do it twice. So they usually get 2 turns of max firepower with all their stuff before then they have to sort of usually move around in their castle. So you have to weather at least 2, maybe 3 turns of fire from Tau for the most part.
Kayun's good. Montka is also good. The other one, it allows them to be able to advance and shoot as though move and advances if they didn't. So it really helps them move out and capture those objectives and not sacrifice any ballistic skill or anything, not get a downgrade.
Yeah.
So Kayun's good. Montka is very functional in an objective-based game.
Yeah, I think the simplest way to play Tau is to put him in a castle, but I kind of think that you need to move around a little bit. You need to be cognizant of the fact that at some point you've got to break out.
Something that Abuse Puppy does is he plays an aggressive castle.
Yeah.
It's a castle that moves at you.
Yeah.
And it goes, okay, I'm going to outshoot you, and if you come try to assault me, you're getting overwatched by Riptides and maybe a Yavara.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pressure castle.
But it's moving, in other words. It's not just sitting in one spot.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's to me, Tau, that's more the funner way to play Tau is like a move and shoot kind of Tau. But the big thing they have is for the greater good, which is Overwatch within 6 inches. Basically, if you charge a target, everything within 6 inches that the unit was charged can Overwatch as well. And this gets really good with the Tau Sept, which we'll talk about in a minute, in that they're overwatching on 5s. So Tau are, because of for the greater good, you have to charge in with something tough because you might not survive. Their Overwatch is really, really vicious.
Even if you are tough, I had a turn against Jeff Bull where my Bulgrin were in charge range, and I looked at it and I went, I'm not actually probably going to kill a Riptide.
Yep.
I'm actually just going to stand here. I don't want to give you a full shooting phase.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because
I didn't charge.
Because if they have marker lights within for the greater, marker lights can also
no they
if they have Cadre Fireblades with marker lights.
Well, Cadre Fireblades or the Farsight Marksmen have for the greater good,
there
and they can
you start with those. You try to get
you
marker light.
Try to get a 5 or a 6 on Overwatch, or
and then rerolling ones.
Then that entire army that's firing Overwatch on you. Because I'm sorry, the entire army is going to be firing Overwatch on you.
Yeah, especially if you charged a Riptide, because it's 6 inches off this massive, 9 Titan base. So yeah,
for sure. That is, but that rule kind of dictates how you build your Tau castle. So if you're a Tau player, you've got to figure out exactly how to build things so they're all within a range of different things, especially the 6 inches for the Overwatch for the greater good. So, and if you start to move things around, Tau, you're not really moving super far, but you've got to be careful that you're still kind of keeping your castle together.
Yeah.
So, Tau maximize kind of the volume of firepower. Then that's always been the case. They have a ton of shots. Their shooting phase is like or assault phase, and they just always have ways to improve their ballistic skill through marker lights. But they also have they have ways to sort of increase the wound rolls. Their strength may not be always super high, but they just have tons of firepower. Burst cannons, for example, are kind of a classic. Like, they've always been good in every edition I've ever played. They overwhelm with a lot of shots. They force a ton of saves.
Yep.
So I think sometimes that's why playing against Tau is kind of tricky, because it's like, okay, take 20 saves. And that can feel bad when you're rolling all those saves, especially when you're failing several of them. So, they're actually surprisingly a very durable army with their drones. I actually think they're incredibly durable.
Yeah, Savior Protocols works in close combat too. So even if you get there, hey, you can have that Thunderhammer, and meanwhile, your captain's swinging and a drone flies in every time.
I actually didn't know that. That's actually really funny. That's funny. Savior Protocols. So that is Tau. They have some fast-moving units, though. They do have some deep strikers, which I kind of like, just to give them something so they're not sitting in one location. But for the most part, Tau is kind of a castle that can move with some forward elements. And like I said, I haven't seen them play any other way, really. All right, so let's go through the Septs and the different Tau Septs. And the Tau Septs are essentially, chapters of Marines or craft worlds. I actually didn't know what a Sept was until they came out with this codex, but that's, there you go. There you have different Tau Septs. So different forces of Tau fight a little bit differently, and that's kind of reflected in the Septs. So the first one is the Tau, and this is just a generic one. And when a unit with this basically greater good, they overwatch on a 5. So the greater good ability, which is your 6 inches, you get to overwatch on a 5. You're successful, a 5 or a 6, irrespective of any modifiers. So this is actually the one you sort of see often taken as kind of the default option, just because it's really, really good.
Yes.
So when you have an entire unit shooting at you and hitting on 5s, that's pretty darn good. So
and then when you combine that with the stratagem,
which is focus fire. When a Tau Sept unit causes an unsaved wound on the model, or on a unit, you can spend 3 CP. Any other unit that then fires at that model gets +1 to wound.
Yes, that is really, really good.
Yes, it's very good. It's very expensive.
It's expensive.
But if you can plink a wound off with minor shooting on something that's big, and then you go, okay, well, I'm going to pop that. Now all my Riptides wound you at +1 with those 14 shots from the burst cannons.
Because the strengths are not always really high, but the volume is high. But if you get a +1 to wound, as we've talked about, the Veterans of Long War, that's really, really good.
It's huge. I mean, and you'll see Tau players, like, if it's a knight, they'll throw, like, 10, 20, like, Fire Warrior shots into this knight and just kind of, like, hope and pray that they take 1 wound off, and as soon as 1 wound is gone, like, and now my 3 Riptides.
It's on.
Now my 3 Riptides wound you on 4s instead of 5s with their 18 burst cannon shots.
For sure.
All right, so the Warlord trait for Tau Sept is the Strength of Belief. Roll a d6 for each mortal wound inflicted on your Warlord. On a 5-up, that mortal wound is ignored and has no effect. If your Warlord is getting shot at as Tau, then things have gone terribly awry.
Yeah.
They need to recalculate.
That one's a strange one,
Their relic, which are signature systems, is really good. It actually invokes a lot of PTSD from 7th edition.
Yep.
Tau at the vectored maneuvering thrusters, Tau Sept battle suits only. This model may immediately move up to 6 inches after attacking in the shooting phase, so they get jump, shoot, jump, which caused so much wah-wah in 7th edition that you could shoot and then jump into cover or behind line of sight blocking terrain, and it just caused a lot of feel bads.
Yeah,
it's not as important in 8th now. That's on a commander. It's really not because he's a character, so you don't have to hide him as often. Mm-hmm. It's useful. Not as important as it used to be.
It's jump shoot jump was really so rough in last editions, and now Tau lost that. I mean, it's not something they do anymore, which is. I was going to say, I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just different.
My army is not crying about it.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Well, at least you're not able to jump like an entire unit of battle suits.
Yes.
Because I mean, the heyday of 7th, we'd have our scatter laser bikes that would step out, shoot like a billion shots at you, and then I just get to roll 2d6 and move that distance, which is usually behind this wall here.
Well, and they have drones now to weather their incoming fire, so they don't really need jump shoot jump as much, just because their drones are there to capture wounds that they have incoming.
Yep.
All right, so Tau, and the thing about the Tau Sept is Shadow Sun is Tau.
Yes.
And she's a very good commander because she came down in points with chapter approved.
It's about like 50 points,
and you're seeing her a lot. So,
she's everywhere.
And the cool thing about Shadow Sun is, first of all, she's kind of a cool character, but she's also, she allows you to mount Kayun twice.
Yes.
Kayun twice.
Which is very powerful. She's also a really good target. I know that we're talking Sept specific stuff, but there's one strat that works very well with her. It's
command and control node.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking that was the name, but a commander sacrifices their shooting to give rerolls to wound to a battlesuit unit.
Yeah.
She has fusion guns.
Yeah.
And she's going to be in the middle of your castle.
Yeah.
She's not going to be in range with her fusion guns a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, and she's also a cheap commander model to unlock that.
Yeah.
So you surrender her shooting, then use command and control node, and go, hey, those broadsides over there with all the missiles?
Yeah.
They're going to reroll the wound.
How much CP is that? Just one?
I believe it's 2.
One or 2.
It's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. Rerolling wounds,
No, it is 1. It is 1.
Oh my God.
No, that's good.
That's right. I forgot it was 1.
Yeah. Pick a battlesuit unit within 6 inches. So you're looking at crisis suits or broadsides, but broadsides went down. The missile system went down. She went down.
Yep.
It's a nice combo.
That's really nasty, because, Doom's a good thing. And plus the other thing, plus 1 to wound. Yeah. You can see why Tau can essentially eliminate a single threat almost every turn, regardless of how tough that threat is. All right, so that's the Tau Sept, and I think you see Tau Sept for just about everything. The next is the Viola Sept. If a unit with this tenet advances, it treats all rapid-fire weapons as assault. In addition, models with this tenet do not suffer the penalty for their hit rolls for advancing and firing assault weapons. So essentially, it is battle focus for Tau. What do we have for strats?
So stratagems, they have a 2-point. It's called Hot Blooded. It's a 2 CP strat that they get to shoot again. It's a shoot again strat for one of their units. Unfortunately, it comes with the negative that when they shoot again, they have to shoot the nearest unit.
Oh, man. They had just as flat shoot
I know.
again.
Well, if it was shoot again, I'd be upset.
What's their signature system?
Their warlord trait.
Oh, their traits, right, yeah.
Is Academy Luminary. If your warlord has the Master of War, volley of fire, or failure is not an option ability, the range of that ability increased to 9 inches. In addition, if your army is Battleforged, you receive an extra command point.
Okay.
Okay. The signature system is it's a flamer. It's a thermoneutronic projector. 8 inches, D6, strength 6, neg 1, 2 damage. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. Viola, of course, the great thing about the Septs is that I don't think anyone knew anything about the Septs except for Farsight and Tau. Yeah. So I don't know if there's many dedicated Viola players out there that are super upset that their Septs are not the most competitive. I would say that there's not a whole lot with this one. I mean, it's cool to advance your Fire Warriors and shoot them, but you're giving up a lot to do that. So
I've seen the Flamer on a Cold Star Commander.
Yeah.
which was cute.
Yeah.
But it was cute.
Then we have the Tau Septs, the adaptive camouflage. You know, with this tenant that does not Mantis Strike, move, basically Mantis Strike is their teleport. Move, fall back, charge, pile in, or consolidate may claim the benefit of cover in their opponent's subsequent turn, even while in the open. So if they sit still, they get cover. This is actually not horrible. I don't see this. Essentially, it's like prepared positions, right? You just get it. What is their
well, the Sept is designed to be kind of the more covert one, because this is the one that includes a lot of the mercenaries, the Kroot and the Vespids and things like that.
Got it. Yeah.
And their strat is strike and fade. And so 1 CP strat. You select a unit after it's shot, and it gets to move up to 6 inches.
Oh, another jump, shoot, jump.
Cannot advance, but yeah, it's a jump, shoot, jump.
Huh.
Nice.
Okay. Not horrible. And it's, by the way, sorry, it's unit. Not just okay.
Yeah, unit.
Oh, so I guess some battle suits would be a unit of battle suits be able to jump, shoot, jump.
There you go.
Cool.
There you go.
The warlord trait is called Gunship Diplomat.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, come full round. While within 12 inches of your warlord, friendly Kroot and Vespid units gain 4 the greater good ability. If you're going to run a ton of Kroot, which they are cheap.
They are cheap.
Yep. Guess it would be good. I finally saw Vespids the other day in the wild, and so they actually exist.
Yeah.
You don't really see Vespids much.
No,
because the models are awful.
Yes.
but
Yes,
hey, their guns are no joke.
Yep.
The signature system is the dynamic mirror field. Your opponent must subtract 1 for hit rolls that target the bear. Again, if a character like that is being shot at, unless it's like a suicide Cold Star commander that's going up the field with 4 fusion blasters.
Yeah.
Kind of in a bad spot.
Kind of in a bad spot.
I have questions.
I've never seen Daleth run, or a Daleth. I don't know. They seem okay. Cover's not bad.
That'd be cute.
You don't have to spend 2 CP for it. But the thing is, again, Tau are so good that it's really, really difficult to get around that.
We did talk about, as much as people think Tau just wants to stand still entirely.
Yeah.
You do want to move a good amount of the time.
That's true.
You're losing out the benefit of that a good amount.
There might be some play for some of these, for some of the more faster stuff. Sakea, I see a lot, and this is add one of the leadership characteristics of model with this tenant, which is cool. But in addition, in the shooting phase, you can reroll a single failed hit roll when the unit with this tenant shoots. So you can reroll a single, well, it's not bad. It's like once, but what's their stratagem?
Their strat is Orbital Marker Distribution Uplink. It's a 2 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit visible to a Sakea Sept character from your army. That unit and all other enemy units within 6 inches of it gain a marker light.
That's really good.
It's super good.
For 1
CP.
so good.
2.
Yeah.
Or for 2 CP.
Yeah, it's very, very, very much worth it, especially because you're going to be running Sakea marker light characters. What's their name?
Farsight Marksman.
The Farsight Marksman.
Firesight Marksman.
Yeah, Firesight Marksman. You're going to be running those to get Ballistic Skill 2 marker lights anyways.
Yeah.
And then you get to pop that down, get rerolls to 1. It's strong.
It's good. It's a good way to sort of, because we talked about marker lights, oftentimes you light up a single unit, but that's a really good way to light up several units or a blob of units that are coming towards you. That's cool. That's why you see a lot of them. So.
And since we don't have blast templates in 8th edition, we've all gotten really sloppy with our model placement.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so, this is one of the one things that you actually see, I really need to pay attention on how my units are spaced to reduce damage on this one.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Warlord trait is friendly Sakea units within 6 inches of this model reduce the number of models that flee as a result of morale.
Okay.
That's cool. And the signature system is the Grav inhibitor field. Sakea Sept models only. Enemy units that choose the bear's unit as the target of a charge must subtract 2 from their charge distance. If your character is out and able to be charged, things have gone terribly wrong.
We have questions.
Oftentimes I've seen Sakea as a detachment with an ethereal.
Yes.
And because the thing about an ethereal is it affects all Tau units. It's not Sept specific. So that's good.
Yeah. So and they don't need any of these strats.
They don't need any of this stuff. And so
Sept tactics.
Yeah, and then you take the Firesight Marksman.
So it's a Farsight Marksman and a Cadre Fireblade. Those are the 2 marker light characters. Yeah. You see an Outrider. Yeah, an Outrider with an ethereal and 3 of the Farsight Marksman.
Yep.
Farsight marksmen are their Farsight marksmen are elite, so Vanguard.
So Vanguard.
Yeah. But basically, you see those in that Cicea Sept. It's a tiny little detachment, but it actually it's really good for marker light.
It's cheap and like it's 2-up marker lights. I mean, they're great.
Yep. The other one you see with that little marker light detachment is Borkan, because Borkan is models with this tenet may add 6 inches to the maximum range of any rapid fire and heavy weapons are armed with. So Borkan actually, that 6 inches makes a difference because marker lights are 30. What's the range?
36. 36.
They're 30 or 36.
They're 36.
So marker lights are 36 inches. If you're outside of that range and you can't pop them, then they're not getting that full firepower, but Borkan kind of pushes it up a little bit. So I've seen Borkan as the other Sept with that. But anyway, what is Borkan's stratagem?
Experimental weaponry. You can use it anytime that a Borkan Sept unit from your army fires a ranged weapon that makes a random number of attacks.
Yes.
You can reroll one of the dice to determine the number of attacks made. 1 CP.
So the Avara Riptide.
Yes.
Borkan with this extra 6 inches is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the flamer rerolling number of shots.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's where you see Borkan usually with the Avara.
Yeah. Borkan's up there as one of the better of these Septs. I mean, there's only 6 of them, but I would say it's number 2 or 3 because one of the weaknesses of Tau is kind of the range of some of their better firepower. Burst cannons are only they're heavy lifters. Burst cannons are only 36 inch range.
Yeah.
Okay, you can outrange 36 inches pretty easily, and you're going to force them to move out.
Yeah.
Which makes them extend their castle. Yeah. Which gives them a frowny face when they have to do that. Yeah. And then of course having the broadside missiles be 54 inches instead of 48 is always a positive.
It's really good.
Borkan's Warlord trait for each hit roll of 6 plus made for your Warlord, add 1 to the wound roll for that attack.
That's not bad.
Not the worst in the world. The signature system is Plasma Accelerator Rifle. It replaces their plasma rifle. It becomes 36 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 7, neg 3, 2 damage, and that's just a base one because they don't have overcharge profile, do they?
No, they don't. So that's the Borkan is, like you said, usually for the distances to get around that. Because 36 inches for when you're playing against Tau, when they have that castle, the castle can move, but it's not super flexible. Because oftentimes you want the drones to stay out of line of sight so that it can't be targeted directly. And you're kind of in a bit of a fixed position depending on where the terrain sits. You may not have a super amount of freedom to move, and you can spend a turn outside of the range of a lot of their heavy hitters or force them to come to you. But Borkan gets around that, which is kind of the strength of that Sept. The last one is Farsight Enclaves. And Farsight, I love Farsight. He's such a cool character in that basically he's like the wild child that went off on his own and left. And his model's still really cool, and I love that. But unfortunately, let's see what they're set. Their Farsight is reroll wound rolls of 1 for models with this tenet, which is good. Wound rolls of 1 is good.
Yep.
For shooting attacks against enemy units that are within 6 inches of the firing model.
Wait a second.
If you're within
Wait a second, right?
Within 6 inches of I don't, and I know what they're trying to do. Which doesn't make a lot of sense because if you deep strike, you're at the 9, so you're sort of really. If it was 9, then it would make a whole lot of sense because that's kind of Farsight's thing.
Well, it'd have to be 10.
It would have to be 10.
It'd be 10. Yeah, you're right. That's Farsight's thing is he drops down with a bunch of suits and does, he's
stuff.
He does stuff. He does his thing, but that's not really, unfortunately, 6 is much more limited.
And you can tell Farsight's the wild child. Just look at the symbols of all the Tau Septs. They're all very clean cut, black and white.
Oh yeah.
But here's Farsight with a red dot in his symbol.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
He is a rebel.
Yes.
He's a rebel.
He does not conform.
What a revolutionary.
Yeah. I mean, he does have access to the 8. But
we're not going to talk about the 8, are we?
No, we're not.
Okay, thank you.
Shaw, what's the stratagem?
The stratagem is drop zone clearing. A battle suit unit that has you use it at the beginning of your shooting phase, and a battle suit unit that arrived from deep striking gets +1 to hit.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, man.
And it's 2 CP.
It's 2 CP for that.
It's 2 CP.
That's brutal. I mean, it's fine because then you don't have to worry about marker lights. You're sort of self-contained somewhat.
Yeah, which is nice.
But I
mean, if you compare it to other like shoot when you arrive strats that exist, those are all double shoots.
Yeah.
Or they're really, really good.
Yeah.
That one's like,
yeah. It's so as I was joking about the dedicated Vyorla Septs who might be or Daleth that might be a little upset, which they don't exist. There are lots of Farsight Enclaves players out there
are.
And unfortunately I'm not seeing anyway, sorry, keep going, Matt. What's the rest?
Warlord trait, hero of the Enclaves. Your warlord can perform a heroic intervention if they're within 6 inches of an enemy unit. Enemy units after the enemy has completed all of their charge moves. Your warlord can move up to 6 inches when performing heroic interventions.
6-inch heroic intervention.
So long as the end move
it's just
closer to the nearest enemy model. In addition, if your warlord was charged to perform a heroic intervention, then until the end of the turn, you can reroll failed hit rolls made for them. They're trying to do something that Tau aren't really meant to do with this one.
Yeah.
So I mean, their relic again kind of fits that theme of trying to kind of put a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
Fusion blades, Farsight Enclave model with at least 2 fusion blasters.
Yeah.
The fusion blades replace 2 of the model's fusion blasters and have the following profile. They have the range version, which is 18 inches, assault 2, strength 8, neg 4, d6 damage. Okay, so it's a two shot fusion gun with the melter rule and everything. But they have a melee version, which is strength 8, neg 4, d6 damage. I don't know what the weapon skill is on a commander.
I believe it's 3. Can you look, Mark, real quick?
The commander weapon skill is
3.
3.
Yep.
3.
Yep.
Yep. So I mean, but they have 4 attacks and a cold star. So they have something about viability of a single unit.
These are the suits that you see people model where they're landing on top of a marine with their foot.
Yeah.
These are the ones that people do that with.
Yeah.
Because it's actually, I mean, it actually is a suit that is somewhat in combat.
So Commander Farsight would have that 6-inch heroic intervention.
Yes.
Right? Now,
yeah. If you took him as your warlord. Yeah.
So I'm looking at Commander Farsight right now, and he has a 2-up, 2-up. So he hits on 2s. He has 4 attacks, which isn't bad. His Dawn Blade is actually strength 5 plus 3, so he's strength 8, minus 4 AP, D3 damage. So he's not horrible. He's not bad in close combat. So he's, you can see what they're, and also, whereas Shadow Sun can do Kayun twice, Farsight can do Monka twice.
Yes.
And you see kind of what they're doing. They're trying to make the Farsight as this, and they have Mantis Strike as well. He kind of jumps down. And, he also has, you could reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Farsight within 6 inches of the commander in the fight phase.
Yes.
So if you wanted to build a unit of commanders or, suits that had some level of close combat, I'm not sure how I could quite get around
You
that.
can't do a suit unit.
Nope.
Not a suit unit. You can do a few, you could do him and another commander.
You get 2. You get 2 models that could stand up on their own in close combat.
They still don't have an invuln in close combat,
They still don't have an invuln in close combat.
They still, lacking the invuln in close combat and only a 3-up save. And Farsight himself is T5 with 6 wounds. He's not going to be really...
We know what GW wants us to do with those.
I know.
It's easy to see what they're trying to do. It's just...
It's a shame that... Oh, no, sorry. Farsight has a 4-pin invuln save.
Oh, he does?
Okay.
Oh, wait. Okay, that's good.
He has a 4-pin invuln save.
The commander wouldn't, though.
The commander...
I mean, so you would have to be relying... The 4-up on him is good. You'd have to be relying on drones.
If you give him a shield generator, give him a 5-up, I think. It's one of the...
Shield generators are 4-up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, I mean, you could kit it out, but, oh, man, I mean, that is you would have 2 guys up the field while the rest of your army is like, you go get him, guys! And nobody else is there. I mean, it's you 2, those 2 suits versus the world. That's a big chunk of points.
You know what? It's funny because as we sit and discuss it, I'm like, it probably won't work, but it's fun to think about that it might do something. You know what? It might take somebody by surprise.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I was going to do it, they would be my countercharge threats.
Yeah.
And I would be doing Montka with the two of them plus some riptides, and then when people got close to the riptides, they'd come out to play.
Yeah,
with some drones around them.
That actually just makes some sense. Yeah, yeah. So they can be, because Tau, once they're charged, I mean, they have fly. They can fall back and still shoot. But once you get into their castle, it's sort of they really, really struggle.
Yeah,
they really, really struggle.
I mean, you compare the value of that to Shadow Sun in the middle of a Tau Riptide Ball with a missile commander, though.
Yeah,
and that's when you're losing out comparatively.
You are
in terms of value.
But you're playing with the coolest sept in my mind, which is Farsight Enclave.
Yeah. And then that gives you a reason to build D8.
Yeah. There you go. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out that the Warlord traits and the signature systems are kind of the really meh part of this book.
Yes, it is.
Because even the general Warlord trait, the only one that I would feel is worth mentioning is the one that we always see.
We always see. Yeah.
Is called Through Unity Devastation.
Yep.
And we only see this if the person remembers to do it.
Yep.
Because
they forget so often.
Yeah. It happens more often than not that they just don't do it, because in each of your shooting phases you can pick an enemy unit that is visible to your Warlord. Great. There's no distance. There's no distance restriction on it, which is awesome. Until the end of the phase, each time you make a wound roll of 6+ against that unit for an attack made by a friendly Sept unit within 6 inches of your Warlord, the armor penetration characteristic of the attack is improved by 1.
Which is good.
Which is good. Again, they have to remember to do it, which they never do.
They do.
And the only signature system that I would feel is worth mentioning is the one that you always see taken.
Yep.
which is the Pure Tide Engram chip.
Yep.
Okay, so it's basically a worse version of the Aquila relic for IG. It's once per battle. You can reroll a single hit, wound, or damage roll made for the bear. Usually, for the bear or a friendly Sept unit within 6 inches of the bearer.
Okay,
so it's more of an aura thing than the Karov's Aquila. In addition, if your army is battle forged and the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you or your opponent use a stratagem. On a 6, you gain a command point.
Okay, so it's a CP farm.
Yeah, it's a CP farm, but it's on what you or your opponent spend a command point, which is rare. Usually it's one or the other.
Yeah, and it's stratagem, not CP, so it's not for every point. So you're probably going to get a couple back. Through the course of the game. So, but you're right. That trait and that supports, that's what you always see. Those are the ones you always see with
there's no other relics really worth taking. To be 100% honest with you. I mean, it's a free. You get a free. It's a free relic.
It's a support system. Yeah, you get it. So
that's going to get you more command points, which segues perfectly into. We've highlighted a couple of the really good stratagems for Tau. There are not a lot of them.
No. Okay. Yeah.
So they are in this point where we have cheap troops. We have a great relic that lets them farm command points, but we don't have the stratagems to use them effectively.
Yeah. Tau have they are. Yeah, that's true. They have some really good stratagems, but you only see a handful typically used with Tau.
Yeah, so you'll see the marker link. Or marker light uplink.
Uplink marker lights is a great one.
That's another one. What's that stratagem?
So when you hit a model with a marker light, you can pay 1 CP and turn it into D3.
Yeah,
or 1 plus D3.
1 plus D3, which is huge for 1 CP. It's amazing.
Yeah. You combine that with so you do that. Yeah, you shoot somebody with a marker light, get all of that. Well, really, you do it in the other order. You do the
Cicaya.
The Cicaya strat.
Yeah.
Put out all the marker lights, and then you get the reroll ones to hit against your priority target. Use that.
Yep.
Suddenly you have a bunch of marker lights to just show up.
Yep. Which is cool. That's just typically what you see. The command and control, the uplink marker light.
That one, the branch Nova Core, so that a reptile can pick 2 effects for its Nova Core when it's go time.
Yep.
They have a stimulant injector, which is act up top profile. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm always jealous of those strats. Anytime you can go, well, this big massive model that you've left at 2 wounds, it's going to just shoot
go
you.
top now. Yeah. So you're right. Actually, they're to play Tau, though, you have to maximize the limited things that you have, because they haven't really. I think we haven't even gotten to the units yet. We're going to go through the more powerful units in the codex here, but I think that before we jump into the units, the ones that that sort of stand out, I kind of think that Tau need a campaign book. They need like a supplement. They need something to kind of expand out their stratagems and their traits and their support systems at this point. So they have some very good stuff, but they have some limited options. So.
Yeah, and they have a lot of strats that would be fun if they weren't tied to units that you just don't see.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean,
sure.
they have they have a strat for a manta.
Yeah.
It's related to a manta. Like, that's a strat slot that you did not need to fill with that.
So we'll go through the units here, but before we go through the units, let's take a break and let's hear a word from our sponsor, Trader A. If you're like most Warhammer players, you own a ton of models. At one time you had big plans for these models, but now they just kind of sit, gathering dust, unused and unloved. It's time to clean out your closet of shame. Visit TraderA.com and get cash for your used models. Trader A is run by Captain A, someone who's been in the community a long time and has done a lot to grow the hobby. He's also a personal friend of the show. Unopened boxes, models on a sprue, half-built models, primed, painted, even bits have value. The process is simple. Send him a list of what you have, he'll send you a quote, you pack it up, send in your stuff, and he'll get you cash. You can shop around, but you're going to find that Trader A gives you 40% more than the other guys. You want it quick, you want to get rid of it, visit TraderA.com. Get cash to buy the stuff that you really want. TraderA.com. Sell your models and get your cash quick and easy. All right, so let's talk about some of the Tau units. And as we sort of prefaced a little bit, this codex is, I think, from an internal standpoint, like a lot of codexes, it has a lot of really great units in it, but it has some that you're not seeing as often.
Yes.
Including my favorite Farsight. So, let's talk about the HQ slots. We're not going to go through every unit. We're just going to talk about the ones that you see that they're pretty powerful that you should consider when you're building a list and you want to do well with Tau. So the first is the HQ, and the first off the bat is Shadowsun, and we kind of chatted about Shadowsun, why she's good.
Yes.
Because she can do the command and control node. She can do I get the Kayun Monka mixed up each time. Kayun twice. She has dropped in points with chapter proof. Yep. She's really, really good. And you're going to take Tau Sept oftentimes anyways.
Yep.
So you have the Cold Star Commander.
Yes.
And the Cold Star Commander is, I don't know any Cold Star Commander that lives through the whole battle. Because the Cold Star Commander is often a suicide unit.
It's the Leroy Jenkins of the Tau Sept.
He is. The Cold Star Commander basically has a massive 20-inch movement, and actually you can deep strike the Cold Star Commander as well.
Yes.
You can advance and add 20 to the move characteristic of him, so you can actually move 40 if you want.
Yep.
The Cold Star Commander can take fusion guns, which means that
Fusion blasters.
Fusion blasters. The Cold Star Commander, it comes without burst cannon, which is fine. Strength 5, 8 shots, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. That's fine. But usually you're going to give him the fusion.
Yes.
Because he's going to go in and he's going to take out a really nasty target. And that's kind of what the Cold Star Commander has typically been used for. So, Matt, have you ever seen the Cold Star used for really anything else besides fusion? Suicide unit?
You can put the cyclic ion blasters on them, and they can just clear screens like nobody's business.
Oh, that's fair.
But the problem is that they're not infantry, so they can't move through walls.
Yep.
And it really hinders them a bit unless again, they're Cold Stars, they have fly. They can do that jump, shoot, jump, and jump backwards behind a wall. You don't really see it a lot.
No.
You see the commanders kind of hang in the back a little bit.
Yeah. Anytime that I see a Cold Star, it's like they bide their time. Turn 5, they're like, well, I need to kill something a lot, so I'm going to move him out, kill it, and then he dies.
Yeah. Or, like you said, they don't have a volume with fusion. They're just not guaranteed that they're going to kill the thing that you want them to kill. They may put a hurting on it, but they're not going to like kill it. So they're good at sort of cleanup duty. But yeah, it's Cold Star Commander. And they actually have one of the newer plastic models, and it looks super cool. So, Cold Star. Ethereal. You see Ethereals in a lot of Tau lists because Ethereals are not Sept specific, and Ethereals are pretty much, they buff all Tau units, and they have their.
The two big ones you see. There's a third ability they have that nobody uses. There's a Sense of Stone, which basically gives the 6-up feel no pain. So when the Riptides are pushing the button that says do not push to overcharge something or give a 3-up invul or get extra burst cannon shots. They get a 1 in 6 chance of ignoring that wound that they take. And then there's the leadership one where everybody around them gets to use their leadership, and Tau leadership is not great.
No.
And so they get to use his leadership 9. And on drones that are like leadership 4.
That's really important.
Because people are going to be, those drones going to die, because that's what they're there for. They're there to die and to make sure that they don't flee. That ethereal is very, very important.
And if you make them that Sept to be leadership 10, right? I mean, the +1 leadership. So you're right. That within 6 inches of him, he uses his leadership. So you see the ethereal, then you see the Cadre Fireblade, because the Cadre Fireblade is a cheap HQ, and the Cadre Fireblade is a good source of marker lights as well.
They're super cheap, and I think it's a 2-up. It's either a 2-up or a 3-up that they get.
Yeah, so they have a 2-up. The 2-up ballistic skill. They carry a marker light. It's 2-up marker light. I mean, that's really all you really
for 40 points.
For 40 points.
That can hide.
And then they have an additional effect.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Fireblade, right?
The Fireblade.
That adds extra shots.
Yeah. And they have volley fire. Models in Sept units within 6 inches may fire an extra shot with pulse pistols, pulse carbines, and pulse rifles when shooting a target within half of the weapon's range.
Yes.
So when you get within 15 inches of a bunch of fire warriors, they're hitting you with 3 shots each.
Yes.
That is really, really brutal. So Cadre Fireblade is just kind of a no-brainer. You see them in almost every Tau castle because it gets a 2-up marker light, and they make fire warriors just that much better.
Yeah, and if you're doing something with Borkin, that's rapid fire 3 out to, or no, well, not 3 rapid fire shots out to 18 inches, which is fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just
really, that's really
kind of a fun pickup.
It's nasty as well. Then you have Dark Strider, which I've seen taken sometimes. He is a named character.
Yep.
Cadre, basically a Cadre Fireblade type named character guy. And he has what's called the Structural Analyzer. In your shooting phase, pick a friendly Sept infantry within 6 inches and pick an enemy unit that's visible. To the end of the phase, add 1 to wound rolls made for those infantry attacks.
So you see this as that whole Tau Sept combo, right? So you have a giant unit of fire warriors that Dark Strider's behind, and he says, you get +1 to wound against that big thing. And when they plink off a wound of that one big thing with their strength 5 guns, because fire warriors are not slouches.
No.
You know, they'll wound knights on 4s.
Yep.
And they'll take that wound off, and then I get to use that
focus
fire stratagem, and the rest of my army gets +1 to wound against you. It's a pretty nasty combo,
and that's pretty much the sequence of. I mean, with Tau, when you're playing Tau, it's a sequence of shooting, and once you get your sequence down and when to use the strats, essentially it's like, what do I want to die this turn? That thing dead. Next turn, what do I want to die? That thing dead. That's essentially how Tau can play. In many ways.
And Dark Strider also lets them shoot when they fall back,
which is very good.
He's so good.
It's really, really good. So
he's cheap too. He's real cheap. I just need to highlight how cheap he is for what he does as far as synergy. Oh man, he's in the named characters. Of course, they have their own special section.
Is he a Sept?
He's Tau.
He's Tau Sept. Okay, there you go.
Dark Strider.
Of course he is. I wasn't thinking.
Dark Strider is 45 points.
Yeah, so he's not much more expensive than the Cadre Fireblade.
They have really good character synergy, and their characters are like super cheap.
Yeah,
they are dirt cheap.
Yep. And let's talk about the Fire Warriors, which are also cheap. So it's 35 points for 5 Fire Warriors.
Yep.
And the 5 Fire Warriors have Ballistic Skill 4. They have Weapon Skill of 5, but you don't care about the Weapon Skill. What they do have is their rifles. Their pulse rifles are 30 inches, which is good. Rapid Fire 1, a Strength 5. And that's what makes them good. Strength 5 on an infantry model, that's that cheap, especially in mass. Fire Warriors are good because of that, really for that option alone. So, Matt, you played against like a mass Fire Warrior army.
Yeah, I had like 80 Fire Warriors or something like that.
Do you think that I've heard of people jokingly talk about running like 80 to 100 Fire Warriors. It feels a bit excessive to me, but
I don't think you need that many.
You really don't.
You could maybe make it work.
Yeah.
I don't think you need that many, though.
How many Fire Warriors do you typically see?
30.
Yeah.
I see 30 a lot.
Because usually you see 2 battalions with Tau, and you see 5.
Yep.
Basically 3 units of 5 in each one.
They're cheap.
Yeah.
And Strength 5 is mathematically one of the better strengths in the game. Probably, I don't want to say it's the best strength, but on an infantry model like that you can spam, oh brother, is that good? Because it's wounding most things on 3s.
Yep.
And, big things like knights, you're wounding on 5s.
5's at worst.
Yeah. And typically fire warriors are not a priority target right away, and so, but they put out a lot of shots.
Yes and no.
Yeah, what do you think?
So fire warriors are like your vanguard. For old school.
Yeah.
I shoot fire warriors a lot because I can kill them.
Yeah.
I can't kill suits and drones turn 1. So I'll kill fire warriors because I need those points.
Yeah, if you need to kill a unit, you'll shoot at a fire warrior unit to kill it.
But you're right, they're not a priority target throughout the game.
Yeah.
And fire warriors are deceptively resilient because of that
4-up.
Because they have that 4-up, and they have the ethereal nearby that will help them with leadership, and they have that bonding knife ritual.
Yeah.
Because every other army, when they take a morale test and you see a 6, you're like, yay, they're going to lose things. Not Tau, because they have taken a knife and said, I am not going to run on a 6. And basically they auto pass on a 6. No matter how many they've lost, they auto pass on a 6. It can be very, very frustrating. The word I'm looking for is frustrating. Happened a few times.
Yep. And so those are fire warriors, and those are the troop options that you see often with Tau. I don't know if I've ever seen too much Kroot run. I'm not sure how you would typically run, or breacher teams for that matter, because breacher teams have the short-ranged.
Yeah, I think it's like a variable range. Like the closer you get, the better it is.
Yeah, when you're within 5 inches of them, it's a strength 6 -2. But if you're within 5 inches of something in your Tau play the range game. They need to play the range game. The breachers are a little tricky.
Yeah, things have gotten hairy.
Yeah, for sure.
Kroot are always, worth a mention because they have one of the few things that Tau really, really need to kind of make their army a little bit more. Have a little bit more staying power on the board. Is they have like a stealth move, or a scout move is what I was looking for.
Very beginning, they move 7 inches at the beginning. Yep.
Yeah, they can't outflank like they were able to last edition, which was really handy when they could outflank. It actually help Tau keep a board presence going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But hey, GW, maybe for an upcoming supplement,
that'd be nice.
I think that the outflank would be nice because you're right. Tau suffered a little bit from board presence often, just because they don't have the stuff to reach out and grab stuff. But yeah, I guess Kroot can provide a that much more another layer of screen out in front of stuff. So and
part of the reason why you don't see them is it's harder to get the models.
Yeah,
you can always find used Tau. Fire warriors.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of starter kits and stuff that people bought for the suits and then they don't want the fire warriors, so they sell them.
Yeah.
I don't see that many Kroot models.
And Kroot aren't bad plastic models either. They're not that old. They're actually newer plastic. Well, newer, I mean by the last, 5-10 years or something, but they're not horrible.
No.
Yeah, you're right. You never see them. You don't really see them on the shelves. Then we come to the elite slot, and this is where Tau have an embarrassment of riches. They have a ton of good stuff in the elite slot. And the first is the Riptide. So what is there to say about the Riptide?
The Riptide.
The Riptide, which is great because the Riptide has been good ever since the model came out. And to me, I think it's one of the classic, it's one of the best models, I think, for this army.
Yeah.
So, how often do you see, typically what do you see the Riptides loaded up with, Matt?
So usually you see them with burst cannons.
Yes.
Because the only real downside of burst cannons is the range. It's only 36 inches.
Yep.
I mean, we haven't even really talked about the signature systems that you give these things.
Yeah. So we can kind of roll into the signature systems as well.
So one of the main strengths of Tau is that they have all these upgrades that you can take.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a build your own adventure, choose your own adventure Goosebumps book where what do I want this unit to be good at? Do I want it to be, good at hitting things with flyers? Do I want this thing to be more mobile? Do I want this thing to give me deep strike protection? There's many different upgrades you can give them, and Riptides can take 2 from the support systems list.
Yep. We can take.
Do we want to read off the support system?
Which ones do you normally see them with?
So you might as well just say it's auto take. The auto take one is called the Advanced Targeting System, ATS. It adds 1 AP value to all of their weapons.
Yeah.
So their smart missiles go from strength 5, neg nothing, to strength 5, neg 1.
Yep.
And they ignore line of sight.
Change.
And it's huge. It's huge.
And then if they remember that they have that warlord trait on a 6, it's actually neg 2.
Yeah.
It's neg 2.
With smart missiles.
And smart missiles innately ignore cover.
Yes.
So it's strength 5, neg 1, ignores cover, ignors line of sight.
Yep.
Blah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Blah.
nasty.
Take it. Don't regret it.
Yeah.
Don't look back.
Yep.
Just take it.
People,
Yep.
it's the auto take.
Yep.
Counterfire defense system. Reroll failed hit rolls when firing Overwatch. Not bad. You never see it.
Yeah.
Then there's the Crisis Iridium battle suit. You see it every once in a while. You can use it usually see it on commanders.
Yep. Commanders. Yeah.
To give them
2-up armor.
To give them a 2-up armor. Drone controller, you see every once in a while. Drone unit within 6 inches of the friendly model equipped with this drone controller, add 1 to their hit rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Given that most of them hit on 5s, if you want to go marker drones, which is kind of not in vogue right now.
Don't do marker drones, do gun drones. They put out a ton of fire, and you can get a cold start commander with that next to gun drones really easy. And then they're just like, all these strength 5, pew, 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 and they just kill everything.
Yeah.
Or the sniper drones. Sniper drones are really, really underrated.
Sniper drones are really good. We'll talk about those too. Yeah. In our podcast with Scary, he basically said take a ton of sniper drones.
Pew, pew. I'm gonna skip early warning override because I want to cover it last because it has a near and dear place in anybody's heart who played 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Yeah.
We have multi-tracker reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase for a model equipped with a multi-tracker if it fires all of its weapons at the same target. And that target contains 5 or more models.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's not shield.
Don't take it on a Riptide.
Don't. Shield generator gives the model a 4-up invul save,
which you don't need on a Riptide.
You don't. Well, you can't take it on a Riptide.
Oh, because they already.
They already have a 5-up, and it can be overcharged to a 3-up. Then there's target lock, which you see. Was the one I was talking about. Model with target lock does not suffer any penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons or for advancing and firing assault weapons. The model can also advance and fire rapid fire weapons, but must subtract 1 from the hit rolls when doing so.
That's like you could take the Riptide that moves out, and that's a cool one to take.
Yep. The other one you see is with the Riptides. You usually see that advanced targeting system with this one, the velocity tracker. Add 1 to hit rolls for models with the velocity tracker when it shoots something that can fly. Fly is everywhere. Okay.
Yep.
The one that you don't see a lot, which I'm happy about, is the early warning override. If an enemy unit is set up within 12 inches of the model from your army equipped with an early warning override, as a result of an ability that allows them to arrive mid-battle, i.e. teleport into the battlefield, then at the end of the phase, that's good. That's better worded than the other ones. The model may immediately shoot at one of those units as if it were the shooting phase, but you must subtract 1 from the hit rolls when resolving those attacks. So,
is there a range on that?
12 inches.
12 inches.
It's 12 inches, okay.
And neg 1. All the other ones, it makes you choose, like as soon as it comes down, your opponent asks, "Are you going to intercept me?" I mean, that's the layman term that we use, because in 5th, 6th, and 7th, it was pretty much everything had every Tau model had intercept. At least the Riptides.
Yeah,
it was gross.
Yeah,
and you drop down and they would fire at you at full ballistic skill, and it would be anywhere. And they couldn't fire the next turn, but they didn't care because they neutralized something before it could do anything. It really gave the feel bads.
Oh yeah,
and people hated intercept, and I think that kind of led to this 8th edition, because they have really toned down their ability to nuke things when they drop down.
Yeah, except the Eldar have the
but it's a once per turn.
But it's a once per turn,
Once per turn, 2 CP. You have to decide as something drops down.
As it drops down,
This one you get to choose. But you never see it I haven't seen it.
Most people I wonder with 12 inches of a Riptide.
Well, with Gene Stealer Colts. I wonder. Yavara with that.
Yeah. It could be interesting.
Yeah, that's off the cuff. Just thinking,
it'd be nasty.
It could be good
with auto hitting, because the big issue there is a -1 to hit.
It's rough with
because that means you're hitting on 5s.
Yeah, so because Riptide still has a 4-up ballistic skill.
Yeah,
and you're not firing marker lights to increase that, because it's kind of an off the cuff thing that you're intercepting. So,
but Riptides overall, when you combine them with those build your own adventure signatures or the support systems. It can create a platform that's really, really good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And usually they're going to be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Most lists have at least 2.
At least 2.
And if you're going to start Tau, I think you probably, we'll talk into getting started with Tau next episode, but I think that really 2 Riptides is you could do a lot worse than buying 2 Riptides just to start to, that's a backbone
and
of your
there's
army.
still a robust used market out there for Riptides.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
I mean, they're beefy. They're T7 with 14 wounds. They have a 2-up armor save.
Oh yeah, no,
it's
gross.
They're not easy to kill.
No, they're not.
No.
They have a 5-up invul, and you can be overcharged to a 3-up invul, and it's just disgusting.
Yep. They're still really hard to kill. Not really hard, but they're hard. 3-up invul on on a model like this is a thing for sure. Yeah. All right, next that we have is the stealth suits, and I actually think the stealth suits deserve a bit of a mention because the stealth suits are one of the few things in the Tau Codex that can deep strike.
Or
Not
deep strike, advanced deploy.
Advanced deploy, advanced deploy, like a scout. So the great thing about stealth suits is they're not super expensive. You can give them burst cannons or fusion blasters if you want, but really you could put them in a place on an objective somewhere, kind of hiding, and they have the infantry keyword, which makes them even more important. So you can set them inside a building on an objective. I actually think they're for that reason alone, I kind of like the idea of having at least a unit of stealth suits or 2, so you can at least place them out there to do some kind of level of board control. Yeah, so. And
they also bring some horde clearing.
Yeah, because their burst cannons are 4 shots, strength 5, 1, no AP, 1 damage.
Yeah, you're not going to write home about it, but it's okay.
It's enough to do something. Yeah.
It'll kill some guard squad.
Yep. And that's why I think the stealth suits deserve a bit of an honorable mention. So the hazard support team, which is the Forge World Crisis suit, I actually played somebody who ran nine of these things at LVO, and it's actually. I think it's pretty darn good because essentially it has a deep strike. It has Manta Strike. It has the burst cannons, which are 8 shots, strength 5, 1 damage. It has a ton of burst firepower, and you can actually take 2 of them. Yep. So one single model has 16 shots of strength 5 shots. Yeah. And they can also take one of the abilities listed on the support systems list. You can actually give them support systems as well.
You can all give them ATS if you want. Advanced targeting system.
Give the advanced targeting system.
It gets real expensive,
It does, but they put out a bucket of shots. Yeah. And I think that's the thing with the hazard support team. And also, if you can have a commander get within command and control node range of them.
Give them reroll the hit. Reroll the wound, I mean.
There's just a ton of shots with those guys. Yep. So I think the hazard support team, because the points came down in chapter approved, you're seeing a lot more of those. So let's talk about the actual just a normal crisis suits. That's the Forge World one. Yeah. So we thought we would see more of them. What do you guys? Are they still? What's letting them down? They're the kind of the iconic unit for Tau, right?
Yeah, there's better options out there. I think I don't know. They are kind of a Swiss Army knife where you can take a lot of... you can put plasma rifles on them. You can put fusion on them. I think you can put the cyclone ion blasters on them. You can put smart missiles on them. Yeah. But they are kind of a suicide unit. They drop down and they have a 3-up armor. And they're T4, I think. T5. They're T5.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
3 wounds.
T5 with 3 wounds.
Okay.
3-up save, though, but they just can kind of fold.
They're a suicide unit, They hits on 4s, basically.
They land in a rough spot because, unlike commanders who can take all the same weapon options as them, they can be targeted. Yeah. And then you don't want to be using drones for crisis suits.
No.
Because you need those drones for your Riptides or your Broadsides, which are more expensive and more important and have more firepower. Yeah. So they're just in an odd spot.
Yeah, and it's, to me, those crisis suit models, even though they've updated them, I still think they're not, they look a little goofy to me.
They're still the weakest of the suit models.
I think so. So and that's the elite choices that you typically see.
You forget about the Farsight marksman.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to move on.
Well, we've already talked about them.
Yeah, the Farsight.
We should probably talk a little more about
just
them.
To highlight it. It's a 3-wound character with a 3-up marker light that is 21 points.
So it can't be targeted.
Yes, it's so cheap.
They're so cheap, and it is an untargetable marker light. I mean, because you're going to have just bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies in front of it.
Yep.
I mean, they're fodder for snipers and things like that. Because like my rangers love seeing Farsight marksmen because they're like,
hey,
easy kills.
Something I can shoot at. Yep.
And they die, and they're a liability for headhunter and other objectives where you need to kill characters. But man, a 3-up marker light For 21 points that can't be targeted.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take 3?
And that's how you fill out that, because they're elites, so you can fill out a Vanguard attachment really easy with those guys. And they have what's called a drone uplink. Add 1 to hit rolls for sniper drones that are attack unit visible to a fire site marksman. And sniper drones are actually pretty good. So the sniper drones are just a normal drone. They have a 48-inch range, which is good, which is typically, that's where that's most of the board. Strength 5, 1 damage. The weapon can target a character, even if it's not the closest enemy unit. The fact that they're rapid fire 1 is pretty good, because once you get within 24, they're hitting 2 shots at you.
Yeah.
But on a 6-up, it inflicts a mortal wound, much like every other sniper does.
Yep.
Scary, who was on our podcast after LVO, said you just take a bunch of sniper drones, like 20 sniper drones.
Yeah.
I guess it could work.
You're gonna have the firesight marksman anyways.
Yeah.
And they can drone protocols too. They're an expensive model to do it with, but
there you
they
go.
can.
I mean, there's the Farsight Marksman that gives them +1 to hit, and I think there's a signature system that also gives them
a drone
the drone controller. So they're hitting on 3s. I mean, it's not the worst. Hitting on 3s, usually re-rolling 1s.
Yep.
I bet they could get up to 2+ if you get 5 marker lights on whatever you're shooting.
Oh,
to.
yeah.
So I mean, it's synergy, stacks on stacks on stacks type thing. So
for sure. So that's the elite choices, and then let's move into the fast attack. So the fast attack.
So you can tell that they like this is too big of an elite section. Let's pretend like some of these units are fast and just move them to fast attack.
Yeah,
like the Pathfinders. Nothing about a Pathfinder is fast. Pathfinders hate to move.
They do hate to move
because their primary function is marker lights.
Yep.
And marker lights are heavy, and if they move, they get -1 to hit.
Yes.
So Pathfinders are not fast and do not want to be fast.
I don't know how they came up with some of this stuff. Even Riptides in the elites is kind of odd.
Yeah, why are they not heavy support?
Yeah. I feel like their force organization charts are just really bizarre.
It's all over the place.
But yeah, Pathfinders are obviously, you see a lot of, if you don't have enough marker light support, oftentimes you'll include a Pathfinder team, but most of the time with the Firesight Marksman and the Cadre Fireblades and the Strats, you don't usually need Pathfinders anymore
especially because they get targeted.
Because they can get targeted.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, is when you have the Firesight and the Cadres, they're untargetable marker lights. So they're always using marker lights.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was always the thing in 7th and 6th edition, is if you want to beat Tau, you kill the marker drone.
Yep.
You kill the marker lights first, and you kill the marker drones, and you kill the Pathfinders.
Yep.
And Pathfinders get targeted so quickly,
Yep.
and so do drones.
Yep.
They get targeted because they're very good.
Yeah.
Having that much access to a lot of marker lights is very good, but it's not going to stay.
No.
You'll get it for maybe a turn or 2, maybe, and then it will be dead.
And then, since we're talking fast attack, let's roll into tactical drones. Again, I don't know how they're fast attack, but you're going to have drones in a Tau list. You didn't see a lot of drones past editions, but now you see a ton of drones.
They're all over the place.
Holy shnikes, they have a movement characteristic of 8.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
For a model that never moves.
Yeah.
Or it only moves behind a riptide.
Yep.
Yeah. Or
I'm hiding behind this wall,
Yeah. When it does the Monka thing, it sort of moves, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you have gun drones, you have shield drones, you have marker drones. You're basically going to see guns and shield drones.
Yep.
And the biggest problem with this is that I think the shield drone, the actual model for shield drone, is only in like a couple kits.
Yeah, they're hard to get.
And most people are running, if you're running a Riptide, you're probably going to run about a unit of 6 to 7 drones per Riptide.
Yes.
/ broadside unit. So you're going to need a ton of drones.
Yep.
That's just how it is.
Yep.
So the worst thing about drones is they have those doofy little flight stands that are obnoxious and they just fall all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
As a model, they're cool, but they're kind of annoying in the way they get in the way. But a drone basically has a 5+5+, but really what it does is it's a blade of wounds. It's kind of like a grot for orcs. It just takes wounds, essentially.
Yep.
And shield drones are nice because they get the 5+ save on the mortals they take.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time with drones, you're just going to try to keep them out of line of sight so they don't get targeted.
Yep.
So, but yeah.
Shield drones also carry a native 4+ invuln, right?
Yep.
Yep. And they have a 4-pin bolt. And I guess you could
if
play
they're getting directly targeted.
If they're directly targeted, yeah. You could play that the gun drone sort of like have a commander with a drone controller, and I think that's an interesting way to.
They can deep strike.
Yeah.
So I had that done versus me, and it was a ton of strength 5 shots.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It's interesting.
It was a lot of infantry clearing, which is why I saw it at LVO. I think the hazard suits, that options like that were showing up because they knew. Tau players knew that there were going to be a ton of bodies on the board. And you don't want to be using a Riptide's burst cannon to kill guardsmen.
No.
You can, but you don't want to.
Yeah, and then the hazard suits I saw, it's right. The drones do have the Manta Strike, which is interesting because literally when you run out of drones, you can have some in reserve that here's some more drones.
Yep. Deep strike in, shoot, and eat shots.
Yeah, and they eat shots. And I think that, hazard suits with gun drones is actually pretty good. It makes a lot of sense. Drones, if you're a Tau player, you're going to have
drones.
Tons of drones. That's just how it is. You're going to have a lot of them.
Lots.
Heavy support. Let's move to, we have broadsides used to be not very good, but the points dropped on them, and now broadsides are really pretty interesting unit. You saw a lot of them.
Yeah.
You're seeing some people running 9, I think seems excessive. I think you run a single unit of 3 to benefit from command and control.
Yeah.
But
and they become a liability at big chunks like that, because if you touch them, they're done.
Yeah.
Because
they don't have fly.
Broadsides do not have fly.
Yeah.
The thing is, with riptides have fly.
They just back up and shoot you.
They just back up and shoot you. Broadsides, if you touch them in combat, it wah. Like, here's 16, 20, 24 shots that I cannot shoot at you.
Yeah, and Tau don't have although, they don't have a countercharge threat to dig them out of close combat if they get touched. So they'll fall back, and then that's that. So, and they're also not nearly as beefy. They're T5. They have 6 wounds, 2 up save, which is good. So in cover, they have a 1 up. But outside of cover, if you have AP3 or AP on your weapons, they still can take some damage. So they're not nearly as beefy as a Riptide.
Yeah. Remember, they're not infantry, so they need to be in cover and 50% obscured for them to get cover.
Oh.
That is often played wrong.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They are battle suits, not infantry.
So if you put them in the top of a ruin, for example, if they're
on the top story and there's no wall, half wall that they're shooting over. No, they don't get cover.
They don't get cover. So typically you see broadsides with the missile pods.
2 of them. Yeah, 2 high.
So it's 4 shots each, so 8 shots total. Strength 7, -1 D3 damage.
Yeah, and a lot of the times they'll have seeker missiles too.
And the seeker missiles as well.
Because why not?
Because why not?
Yeah, you just throw a bunch of firepower onto them, command and control note it. If they're Tau, use focus fire. Yeah, no, it's strong.
They have the heavy rail rifle, but I don't see it very often.
You don't see it a lot.
Yeah, I love broadsides, actually.
Yeah.
If I played Tau, I would have broadsides, but I love the rail rifle version.
They look so cool.
Aesthetically, they're just awesome with these big, massive guns over the shoulders. Yeah, I mean, that's me to a T, but it's not that great.
Yeah.
They're not that good.
Just because of the volume of shots, I think with Tau, you want to always take the option that gives you more shots for the most part. I think because there's always strength 5 up, and then that's where they're at. So, I think we should talk smart missile systems as well. Smart missile systems can be taken on lots of different suits. It's 4 shots each, strength 5. It ignores cover, which we talked about. Oftentimes, Tau players, because most of their stuff is not infantry, you need to maximize your smart missiles to clear stuff out of buildings. And I think you saw some Tau players at LVO really took a lot of them because they thought there's going to be these enclosed buildings. I'm not going to be able to get in. So you see smart missiles being maximized in a lot of Tau lists.
Yeah.
And I think even some players, I said, that didn't take Tau to LVO because they just didn't think they had enough smart missiles. Turns out we didn't see a lot of enclosed buildings that we thought we'd see. We did, but not to the level that we thought.
No, they did pretty good.
But yeah. And then finally,
I mean, I think
really it for the good units in the Tau.
I think hammerheads are worth mentioning.
Okay,
especially if you have a long strike with him, the HQ hammerhead.
Yeah, which I think you need him.
Yeah, you need him, and then they have like 3 other variants of the hammerhead in Forge World that have some potential, but they're a little bit overcosted. The ion heads, as they used to,
the ion cannons,
called. They're T7 with 13 wounds. They don't have an invul, though, which is always...
So they die pretty quick.
They die pretty quick. Yeah. The flyers, I don't think are worth talking about, because their flyers have always been laughably bad. a brief period there where the
Tiger shark.
The tiger shark.
Yeah.
There was a period there where
Triple tiger shark.
Yeah, the tiger shark was the business, and then they like, yeah, by the way, this weapon is actually this weapon in the Forge World book. Yeah, so stop using the one from the codex, and they're like, oh, and they were unusable again. But Tau flyers have always been kind of laughable.
Weird because they're one of the newest models they've made. They came out with all the other flyers, and they actually have kind of an interesting aesthetic to them. And I don't know why they're so bad. I don't know. They've never. The other thing that is not that great is the shield line, the Tidewall shield line. No, which is a really. But you know what? To be fair, I don't know any piece of terrain that's really very good for any of these Games Workshop terrain, like the Eldar Warp Gate. The thing the night,
the night bay,
the mech workshop.
That's pretty bad.
You know what the worst one is? That's army. Well, it's actually not army specific anymore. The Angels Fortress of Redemption, the Dark Angels Fortress of Redemption.
Oh, they have that.
Yeah,
it's actually a Dark Angels.
Well, like I said, it's not specific anymore. Okay. It's just a fortification.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Dark Angels themed.
Yeah.
But it hits on 5s.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you pay 400 points for this bastion that has these amazing weapons, but that all hit on 5s.
Yeah.
Or there's the Forge World Necron one, which is like a little like miniature city where you pay points for each part of the miniature city. Yeah. It does something. It's laughably bad.
And the Tau ones do not break the mold. They don't. No.
They make great fodder for boards, for display boards.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're great for display boards.
Yeah.
They look pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's why I have an Eldar Warp Gate, basically for that exact reason.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the only Lord. Well, all right. There is a Taunar, and
which is seeing play. I saw 3 of them Sunday. Well, when I was able to wander around on Sunday, I saw 3 of them playing in RTTs.
How many points is the Taunar?
It
dropped.
It's a lot. Like, if you see a Taunar, they have minimal else with them.
Yeah.
Like a min battalion.
It replaces... No, it's not quite that point. It replaces the Riptides.
Oh.
Let's just take a gander at how much of one is
It's chapter proof now.
In fact, I think Battle Scribe would be a better measure.
Grayson, who has been on the show before, was not pleased when his first game he went against a Taunar and it killed the Castellan in a turn.
Yeah. It'll drop a knight a turn. I mean, they are no joke against big things, and they can have drone support. The problem is that the model is Forge World, and I've heard that it is awful to build.
It is. I have heard that.
But it's so cool. It's literally one of the coolest.
I think you pay about 75 cents per point.
Oh, but it's such a cool model. It's safe to say the Taunar has a bucket. It's just a lot of firepower, as you would expect.
Worth a lot.
And it's a really cool looking model. It really is.
It has 30 wounds. It has more than a Castellan. It is a T8, 3-up armor save. It has a 5-up invul, so much like a knight. It can't rotate, but you can benefit from drones as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Hey, surrounded with a bunch of drones. Read the big gun. People aren't going to be familiar with the big gun in 8th.
The Pulse Ordnance Multi-Driver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is, there's two. There's a 72 inches. There's a Macro 6 is concentrated, and it is Macro 6, which is just macro, is just a macro. 12, strength 12, -4 damage.
So macro means it's doing flat 8 to knights.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it's doubling.
Yeah, macro doubles damage against Titanic.
Yeah,
no, it does flat 8 against knights.
Okay, so at its minimum point cost, it's 1,130.
Oh wow, that's more than I remember.
That is at minimum.
Yeah, and that came down from, I think it was like 1,500.
So you could conceivably run them in a list with not much else, but you could basically marker light support it. But essentially, it is that plus a bunch of like little mini stuff.
With all the bells and whistles, it's like a flat 1,200. So it's a lot less than I thought it was.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, at 1,200 for the amount of fire that it puts out. Again, I was showing up as I'm an anti-knight list.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was showing up at. But yeah, I saw 3 of them on tables and they were winning, all 3. It was hilarious.
And then you can take the Manta, another Lord of War, which you have to, if you want to buy this, you have to specially arranged crate shipping for this thing from Forge World.
Because it's the size of this table that we're recording this podcast.
It is huge. I think they're like $2,000 or something like that to buy.
They're about a point per dollar.
Yeah, and they are 2,600 points.
Yeah.
Because it's like a huge thing that like has a bunch of models in it, I think.
No, it's a transport. It can carry something like a few dozen infantry models, multiple units of crisis suits, and then tanks. It can carry tanks. Yeah. So you can actually put Devilfish inside it that have Fire Wars inside that. So if you're playing like 5,000 point games and
if you're playing APOC.
Yeah.
And you have a table that has a sturdily built base that you don't mind putting a cheap used car on top of.
Yeah.
So we had somebody that came out to an R2T who took a Warlord Titan, or no, sorry, Warhound at 2,000 points and lost every game within like turn one because it died every turn.
Yeah.
A Town R, on the other hand, actually
can function.
You could do that. You could run with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
They just looking at some of the Forge World entries and what they have, Tau is a weird army. They've done things with Tau that they don't do with anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at like Space Marines, like, there's a ridiculous sized transport called a Mastodon. Yeah. It's not as ridiculous as a Manta. I'm sorry.
There actually is a Space Marine version of the Manta. It's not as big, and they don't.
Stormbird?
It's the Stormbird.
Yeah.
Stormbird.
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, well, it's almost as expensive now. Once they were like, this can't exist in the game, we don't want this. And put it at 2,000 points.
Yeah.
But the Stormbird carries similar amounts of models, not quite to that level. But.
Oh, Tau. Well, so that is it for the Tau. Obviously, they have a bunch of other units, but we kind of hit the ones that I think you see a lot of. You're seeing a lot of, honestly, before Chapter Approved, didn't even see broadsides or the hazard suits. Now you're seeing some of these things. Tau with the points adjustment, you're seeing a little more variety of units. But that is all we have for this particular show. So that's the rough overview of the Codex Part 2. Again, we're going to chat with Val and Sean. Okay, so thanks for listening to the show. We'd love to hear from our listeners, so please feel free to message us on Facebook or email us at thebattlehosts@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us, you can help us in a few different ways. You can tell your friends about us and like us on Facebook. You can leave us a review on iTunes, which helps to boost our listening audience. Finally, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thebattlehosts. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us with the cost of running the show and staying engaged with the 40K community. So that is all we have for the Battle Hosts. Thanks for listening to Battle Hosts.
Remember to be a better gamer
and build a better community.
All right.
You're cutting this out, right?
I'm cutting all this out. Okay.